All right, ask me anything. What could go wrong with this? Mistakes have been made. Alright guys, welcome to the first Ask Me Anything. I just hit a year making content on Twitch and YouTube, and I wanted to kind of have you guys get to know me a little bit more than you guys might have already done, or if you're new here, learn something new about me. I've really enjoyed the content I've made for the past year, and I can't wait to see what the next year brings me. So without further ado, let's just jump into the questions. And on a side note, we do actually know the price of rice in China. You can actually get rice in China for about $22 for 110 pounds. The more you know. Alright, now let's just jump into kind of some serious questions. Our first question comes from Kinley. And the question is, what is my biggest fear? And to be honest, my biggest fear in life has always been failure. I don't ever want to be a failure, and I hate failing. It bothers me to know that is where I'm always afraid that I'm gonna jump into something and just fail. Or I'm gonna try something different and new and fail. And I don't ever want to be a failure. It's always been like one of the things that's always eating at the back of my head whenever I try something is, I'm gonna fail at this. And that's always my biggest fear. That's always like what stops me from pushing forward is the fear of failure. Next question comes from Zach. What is the worst and best video games of all time? And no, Cyberpunk is not allowed. Now, I have been very, very, very adamant about how much I love Cyberpunk, and I think it gets a very bad rap. So, I do agree. No Cyberpunk allowed. The best video games of all time. For me personally would have to be, there's so many. The Uncharted franchise, Resident Evil franchise, the Kingdom Hearts franchise, Final Fantasy franchise. But I would have to go with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time as my all-time best game of all time. But honorable mentions to all those other games. The worst game of all time. Now that's a tough one. Worst game of all time, we will have to stick with Legend of Zelda, and we could do this in two for Legend of Zelda and Mario. Legend of Zelda and Mario for the CDI. If you guys ever remembered that, oh god. Oh god. It was bad.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
But we'll have to do Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, best game of all time, and Mario and Legend of Zelda for the CDI. And I did not say Cyberpunk. Alright, so we had this one come up a couple times actually, and it was, what is my favorite video game? And my favorite video game of all time would have to be Final Fantasy VIII. By far, always been on the top of my list. It was a game I played, and I have still play regularly to this day. I love the characters, I love the style, and for me personally, it just hit at a time in my life where I was very depressed and I didn't have a lot of people to talk with and everything. So I kind of shut myself in, and I would always go and play Final Fantasy after school. And Final Fantasy VIII was the big one that I would always still go back to. So Final Fantasy VIII would have to be my favorite video game of all time, despite the Uncharted tattoos suggesting that that would be my favorite game of all time. It is up there, but I would still have to go with Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII. Thank you, Cody and Eli, and anybody else that asked that. That is by far always one of the coolest things, is to learn about somebody is their favorite game. You can actually learn a lot about people from their favorite game. All right, we had another question that came from Dakota. Is it really always Kiss's fault, or is it Winner with bad calls? For you guys that do not know, Kiss and Winner wind up playing with me a lot when we're playing Call of Duty, and we're always kind of getting into shenanigans. I do that a lot on stream. Shameless plug, of course, why not? But I would not say it's always Kiss's fault or Winner's fault. What it really is it's all my fault. It's all my fault were the failures, because I expect more out of myself that then I can produce. Having said that, though, it's always Winner's bad calls, and Kiss is really bad. Michael has asked 2 questions, and since we already finally figured out what the price of rice in China is, he asked, how did I get into gaming? Now, this is kind of a long story, so I'll try to summarize it briefly. I came into the world when the Game Boy and the NES were reigning supreme and the Super Nintendo was on the way. And I was going to a daycare slash preschool. So that it was like a daycare school all in one. But they had 2 arcade cabinets. They had a Mario arcade cabinet with the original Mario Brothers, and then they had an arcade cabinet with Contra, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Trojan, and a bunch of other games on there. And there was this kid that... I can't believe I actually remember his name. His name was Jeremy. There was this kid that was so big into gaming, and he taught me everything I knew about games. So he would teach me all the secrets of Mario, and he would teach me teach me how to play Contra and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And I remember he wound up getting the Sega Game Gear, and if you guys remember the Sega Game Gear, that thing was a monster from another planet. Took 8 AA batteries to run, but he got the Sega Game Gear, and he would let me play all sorts of games. I got to play Mortal Kombat on the Game Gear, and I was able to play, I want to say it was like a Tasmanian Devil game, like Looney Tunes Adventure or Taz Venture. That was kind of like more my foray into gaming and gave me a love for gaming. And then we had a local arcade that I was able to go to and play anything that I wanted to, anything I could get my hands on. Street Fighter 2 just came out, and all these other big arcade games. So I'd take take my allowance or take whatever money I could on a Saturday, go down to the arcade with my cousins, and we would just play at the arcade and then go hiking afterwards. So that kind of was like my big foray into jumping into gaming. All right. And our next question, I think this was a really cool question. For me hitting a year, for me finally to hit a year, Mayday asked, what is my overall goal for streaming, and am I enjoying the way it is currently going? And in all honesty, my goal for streaming, if I could make it a career, was like the future. This is what I want. But I also felt like I had an opportunity to show games that not a lot of people would be interested in, and be able to have conversations about games. So that's what I love the most, is talking about gaming. So my goal for streaming was a place where we could hang out, connect, we could talk about games, talk about the industry, and just enjoy each other's time. I am loving where I have come from, starting out streaming, to like literally thinking that all I did was click go live, and that was all I had to do to become, for people to care about it. And it's to me, it's, now that I know what I'm doing, it's a lot different. Also, the people I have met along the way have been the best part of streaming. The fact that like now we have a community that we can get on Discord, and we can talk, and we can get into games together and play together. It's awesome, because a lot of people, we all went from complete strangers to actually getting to know each other and playing together. And I think that is fantastic. And I would not change any of this for the world. Even if I can't make YouTube and Twitch work, the fact that I've gotten to meet some cool people along the way and have friendships that I feel will last, even if I don't last in this span of social gaming and YouTube and stuff. The fact that I have some friends that I've made along the way is amazing. I would not change any of that for the world. Thank you guys so much for your questions. This was awesome. I really actually enjoyed this, and I would love to do this again. So I will try to plan out another time we can do an Ask Me Anything. You guys have been amazing, and I really could not have done this without you guys. I know you guys hear it all the time, but you guys supporting me and giving me the questions and watching the streams or watching the YouTube videos is all honesty like all I could ask for. You guys are amazing. If you guys enjoy this video, please think about giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, turning on those notifications so you know when the next video comes out. I do new videos here on YouTube at least once a week, as well as I do a lot of my gameplay on stream. So please join me on stream. Ask me questions about my videos. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Or if you guys just want to hang out, see what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to. Until next time, guys, let's just play.